Back here to Mr. Whale.
Ready to leave.
Yeah,
Ready to go home.
it's easier to stick your stuff on and then take it off than to try to carry it all.
That's what you did. Just be careful. How would I carry it for you? All right, we will open the public portion with pledge. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First up, well, welcome to everybody and welcome to the internet. We have a update on our capital project. King folks, what are yours?
So, yeah, and all of you, if you don't remember, we have Mike James from King and King. We also have Bernie Martin from Appel Osborne, and then we have Sean Dalloway, who's our project manager from CNS. And Jim joined us today, if you want to stand up too, because we might have questions for you. And really, there's just been so much going on. I thought it was high time to give the board and any of the public who are interested an update on where our capital projects are. Do you want to take it away, or?
Yeah, I want to even talk about those outlays, the three outlet
Yes,
projects
that's what I
first.
was going to say.
And then this team, we can touch on the larger capital project. So, as you know, the 22-23 outlay project, which involved the railings at the auditorium entrance, has been more than the challenge. They actually showed up this week, if you've noticed on your way in, and Bernie saw them on the way, and I haven't looked at myself, but through no fault of anyone in the room, we just came across a fabricator who struggled to get that right. And thankfully, with help from Christine, we were able to close that job financially. We're holding that check until everything's 100%, and then we'll make final payment. So we are very close.
And I do want to thank Jim and Mike and Bernie. The company the subcontractor that the contractor went with, good company. Bernie and I went up and visited them. They've been doing steel fabrication for years. They do hire veterans, and that's part of the reason our contractor went with this particular company. These are aluminum. So the first time they did the job, well, you saw them, they came back zebra. And, Bernie and Jim looked at it and, it just simply wasn't acceptable. And we said that. They made another set. It wasn't acceptable. They made a third that they sent down that Jim and I looked at, and we called Bernie. He came down, and where the coloration was correct on these ones, the welds just weren't high enough quality, and we want this to be built to last forever. So Bernie took the trip up with me, and we went over their fourth set before we approved them. And again, it's I'm very happy with their help. It's more because I'm not a welder, but it's more important to have it correct than timely. I wanted it both, but they're now good. They're qualities.
Outlet projects are meant to be simple and of short duration. This one was not.
Right.
But you do have two other outlays we can talk about.
Yeah.
The 23-24 capital outlay, which is also a $100,000 project, is the septic tank repairs and some DDC control work in the locker room and gymnasium at the elementary school. That has been approved by SED. We're out to bid. I think some documents were just delivered to the district, and we're bidding mid-April. So that's work, that's critical work that I know Jim that we're looking for being taken care of. So we'll hopefully that one goes much more smoothly than this last one. And the last outlay that I'd like to bring up is the 2024-25, which you may have just talked about as part of your budget planning. That's again, $100,000 project is built into your budget language. And the plan is that there will be flooring replacement in the corridors at the elementary school. So after your budget vote, if that's successful, we'll begin those documents in just like the last two phases. We'll get into SED for approval.
And thanks. We did just talk about that, and Chris saved me from sounding too foolish about those 100K, but thanks.
So those are the three outlay projects. And then we as a team can talk about the 2023 to $10 million project. So, Sean, you want to start or do you want me to start?
Go ahead and start with where we are in SED and
Yeah.
kind of go together on
Sure,
this.
we've been at SED for 6 months, which is about 4 months longer than anybody can tolerate. Unfortunately, that's out of our control. The good news is Carrie, the partner in charge from King & King, just received architectural comments from SED yesterday. So I actually have them with me, and we will respond to any questions or comments they had via what's called an addendum to SED. That's the architectural review. There's also an engineering review, which based on the website is probably a week and a half behind architectural. So it's part of every project. And after we get through that process, we'll receive a building permit from the commissioner. And then, yeah,
Is that usually a one-time or is there like 3 or 4 back and forths?
I'll say it's usually one time, but it doesn't mean they can't follow up with more questions. And that's when it gets painful, when you can't get out of the loop. But it's a fairly simple project. We do have a brand new reviewer at SED, so some of their questions are a little unusual for us, but we'll deal with it. And then, once we have approval, Sean and his team can kick into motion there.
Kick into motion. We'll talk about the bidding environment. As you guys are aware, as Brett brought to you guys, we came to you with the TIPS program to be able to go out and get roofing because there's a lot, let's be honest, there's a ton of work out in New York State right now. And there's only certain contractors that bid this work. So being proactive as a team, thought this was a really good option. We got an amazing roofer in Hale who's with us and dedicated on board. We still have to get through the bidding process being, we're gonna bid this in, end of March, early April. We're gonna potentially take bids late April, early May. Most contractors are filled. I'm gonna be very honest, they're filled at this point. We are still gonna get interest and get people to bid it, but there are another option that we wanna bring to the board's attention, which we think is a very good option by going with a co-op for your site work. We as a team have been diligently working back and forth with this Smith site development, and we're able to get a number from them for your entire site work, including the fiber run and things of that nature. And part of that process is to get the number in, but then look at the estimate that we do as a separate third-party estimate through Trophy Point and compare the number that they gave us compared to our estimate. Our estimates are usually within 1% of bid day pricing, which is very, very accurate. Smith's site was about $35,000 below what we estimated, which to me is a really good thing. What this would allow us to do is to lock them in place instead of waiting another month to see if we can get site contractors interested in bidding this project and going that route. I'm gonna let Bernie kind of talk about that and what we got for pricing and what we're doing.
Yeah, just wanted to answer this. Go back a little bit.
Yeah, just quickly.
Site-wise out there, it's mainly based around the athletic track and the field out there. So we'll be providing new asphalt, new track surfacing, new striping, what we call a sandmaster drainage improvement on the field itself. So what it does, it installs like narrow sand slits in the grass. It's kind of the first step to address if you have minor drainage issues on the field before you go full on and do what they call vertical drains, which are deeper, more intrusive. You can't play in the field for at least a year. Sometimes you find out when you do the vertical drains, you go in too far and the field gets too dry. So we found this is kind of a nice in-between solution for looking at drainage problems on the fields. We'll also most likely have an alternate to kind of infill what we call the D areas of the track. So inside of the curves where the high jump area is on the one end and the long jump area is on the other end. All of those will be new regardless of whether we infill those areas with asphalt or track surfacing. There'll also be a new pole vault area. And we kind of go back and forth whether we do an alternate just to kind of true and level some of the gates around the track at the fence, because the fence is in pretty good shape. And then we'll also replace the trench drain around the inside edge of the track and tie it into the existing drainage inside.
Question.
Yep.
Are you gonna excavate the subgrade in the area where it's leaving, or are you gonna?
Yeah, we're moving all the asphalt down to the stone base and re-level the stone base, the top 2 inches of the stone.
Is that gonna handle that issue?
Yeah, it should take care of the issue.
And everything's compacted
Yeah, yeah.
in these testing.
Yeah.
So there's quite a bit of site work, as you can see, and Sean mentioned the roofing, which is a large part of the budget. The fact that those both are going co-op and we have contractors who are interested, I think is really beneficial. There's other scope that you're aware of, ventilators in the junior high portion of the building, some drainage issues in the boiler room, some finishes in the auditorium corridor, a few doors, things like that. But I think we'll still see some interest from GCs and other primes.
We should see a little bit of interest. Right now, when I get SCD approval, I'll be able to gauge the interest there. Right now, I know I'm, through my company alone, we're bidding 5 projects, and it's really starting to get thin as far as who's bidding it. This is not a competitive bid, but the co-op is allowed by New York State for us to be able to do this type of stuff. What it really does is allows us to engage with them and kind of negotiate the price. Like, well, why were you guys so high? So we can work with them together as a team to get to that number that we all agree to, making sure that the scope's fully covered, minimizes change orders, anything like that, because that discussion started right at the beginning before we entered the contract.
Even though we're right at the end, we just have a few weeks left. We were here earlier this week to work through some details. We received some excellent comments from your building committee members, which we incorporated. And we've been meeting as a team, refining those last few details. For instance, the finishes that we potentially use in the corner walls and some ideas that the administration has about framing some
It's graduation
photos.
pictures. We were talking about the hallway by the auditorium. I'm glad you brought that up too, because it's still on track. We replace those doors. The outside door needs replacement anyway. We'll replace the inside door as well to beautify it really, and those doors are just old. And then, do the whole hallway. That's one of the areas where when we started this project, we hoped everything would be done by the end of summer. We probably will still be working in that hallway when school starts. We'll still be able to hold school. It's not going to really interfere just because of where it is, but it is an inconvenience that we were hoping to avoid, but it doesn't look like we will.
public area.
Right.
A lot of the public will see that space. The idea is to kind of incorporate the colors and materials from around the corner, some of your more recent work, into that main hall. So we should tie that together nicely.
Are there any questions? We really want to make sure we were all here to answer any questions at all that you might have.
Specifically about the site co-op, I know, I told Mike from the beginning, I've never been a huge co-op. I'm always, go out and bid it and get it competitive, that type of thing. But where we are right now, I have to say that, I am nervous going out there and making sure that I get a competitive number. I could get a contractor that wants to come in and say, well, I'll bid it for you, but I'm gonna throw everything I have at it too. If I get it, I'll figure it out, right? I'm gonna make good money.
Can you explain that mechanism? Co-op?
It's a state co-op. It's kind of like a state contract type work where you guys can go out and get your DDC controls through a state contract. It's kind of that same kind of mechanism that allows the state to say, okay, yep, we agree that you guys are getting the lowest price that the state would allow, and we're okay with that, which allows us to engage with this particular contractor.
Some contractors have all
But
been
it's
vetted.
different than tips, because tips, is that correct? Or is
It's
this-
different than tips, but it's basically the same thing.
So then this would so tips, neither part would ever go out to bid, the roofing or the same.
I did reach out to there was a local roofing contractor that reached out to me, asked me about it, and I had some good conversations with him, and he just, I can't do it. It's above what I'm able to do. I think his name was Scott Quick. Very nice gentleman, but it wasn't something he was able to do. He wasn't certified in the type of roofing that we're putting on there to give it a 30-year warranty.
So how does that work on the site side though?
Well, Smith is the only one that is eligible through the state to do that. You know, and again, we can put this out to bid. I just don't know what we would get for contracts right now because of, you know, between now and us taking a bid, I don't know what other work they're gonna pick up and say, well, we're too busy, we can't bid this project right now.
Seems insane that there's one company eligible for all the site work in the work program. But I know that's not you guys, like making that call. That just is irrational.
It is, and I'm actually working with, CAS, which runs the tips. How can I get more site contractors that can do that? So that's actually a conversation that I'm having with them. It's not anything that's gonna help us out this year, but it'll help us out in years to come, so there's more than just one. Smith Site is a very, very good firm. They're gonna do excellent work. Mike's done a lot of work with them. I'm confident in them. And I'm confident in the number from the estimate that I did for you folks. I'm confident in the number that I got, which kept us under budget, which is what we need to do, right? That's why we competitively bid it, to make sure we stay under budget and get the best value for what we're putting out there.
Just for reference, they did 2 projects with us just last year with Maine and well, and the title was track and field at high school.
And both through co-op and
Yep.
tips. Okay, we went through the scope really quickly. Bernie covered the site. I went quickly, just through a few items. Are there any questions about the scope? I'd be happy to spend a little more time with that. It's probably things you've heard a few times. I didn't know if you wanted to go through it yet.
You gonna make this easy on me, Greg?
This time.
I've known Greg for quite a while. He and my wife worked together. Surprised when I saw him walking, I was like, I know that guy.
I am nervous about that one corner of the track. I mean, it's all creek, effluvium right down there. It's all silty, and I just,
Yeah, I think
if it failed once.
right. I think for extra insurance, when we rip up the asphalt, we'll add some extra under drainage underneath on the low end. We're replacing the trench drain inside. We'll add some runs, what we call stormwater management trench, or SMT for short, basically an under drain. That's most likely when you have all the heaving issues is from water coming up through freeze and thaw. And that's what caused the issue to begin with. So what we're trying to do is keep most of the stone base in place. We'll add some additional drainage, and hopefully we shouldn't have any heaving issues in the future.
We're not very far enough water table down there.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, especially with the outlet from everything too.
And we'll work very closely with Bernie and these guys. We'll be the ones on site. If we see something come up, we're knowledgeable enough, and Smith's gonna come to us and say, hey, this, and then we're also gonna have a company by the name of CME that's gonna be doing all the testing, that does all site testing. They're gonna be out here, so we're gonna have a lot of eyes on it. So, I can FaceTime with Bernie and Mike and say, hey guys, this is what I see, what do we wanna do, type stuff, so.
In fact, that same situation occurred in Tioga, where we just did a track and turf project. We did the excavation and found that there were a portion of the track that was very spongy, almost bizarre how as you walked on it, the soil would give, but you didn't see any water. We removed all that product, put in new stone with the help of CME, our on-site testing agency, compacted, so we knew it was 95% compacted when we were done.
We call that an undercut if we run into unsuitable soils, and we bake that into the project as well, so you're not paying an extra on top of what the cost is we've already got in the contract.
And really, it was
And
Smith
if you,
that brought
if you
it.
don't use it, then they give you a credit back. They don't count.
Smith brought it to our attention, and they know as well as we do. Recognize.
So again, I'm not trying to sell Smith's site. I'm trying to get you guys the successful project without paying more money next year to have to do the same amount of work.
Okay, all right.
Thanks for making the trip.
Okay, yeah,
Thank you,
thank
guys.
you.
Thank you.
It's nice to see you
Have a
guys.
safe
I'll see you again soon,
trip.
sure.
Yes. All right, thank you.
Next up, we have CSD, CPS. I think those are our packets. Is there a motion to accept the CSE, CPS reports? Thanks, Hope. Is there a second? Take your pick of Ray or Nate. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Excellent. Minutes of the last meeting, 2/15/24. Have any edits, any changes, any concerns? A motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Thanks, Greg. Is there a second? Second. Thanks, Hope. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And I think everybody is here. So we don't have any. Okay. Next up, we have the treasurer's reports. Is there a motion to approve those? Oh, Ray's got it. Is there a second? Kate did it.
I did.
Oh, I didn't get it.
I'm sorry.
We got it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And appropriation transfers in the same vein. Is there a motion to approve those? Ray. Thanks, Nate. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, now we need some warrants and bundle. We do have some guests who haven't been here before. The warrants are like the school's checkbook. We review the school's checkbook, and some of it's in specific buckets, like federal funds or cafeteria, and then a lot of it's just in there. They have many, many buckets, but we review the checks that they send out. Were there questions on the warrants?
I'm looking at page 121. The cardiac life products, that the defibrillators we're talking about.
Cardiac life, yes.
Defibrillators.
Cardiac life, wait, page 1.
Yeah, page 1. It's $3,500, so I kind of figured.
This is probably the service of the current ones.
There was another one later on.
This is the service of the current ones, but we did get was it the grant that raised? We got a grant, yeah. We did get the grant, if that's what you're thinking about, but that's what you're looking at is separate. Next month's one.
So this is servicing the defibrillators we already have. Okay.
Page 3, the new routes, how many kids is that? Four.
We have 4 children at the roots.
And I know we get 8 back on it, so it's not some, oh boy, that's a lot.
It is not, it's not a good reimbursement by any stretch.
Were you able to look at the NICEAG on the?
I was not, I will get back to you
Okay,
on that.
Any other questions on the general, general funds?
The Candor Water Department, is that cost of water, or does that include repairs? Supply lines, I'm on page 12.
It is the cost of water, but I know that we had an adjustment we had a large bill. I believe there was some miscalculation. We ended up with I'm not sure that it worked out through this warrant yet.
Mhm. So this is just for water.
Page 12.
So you remember a few years ago, there was an agreement for a long time to get free, and then that
Right.
agreement expired and we started charging.
We do
Maybe
pay a
in the
month,
last-
we
Well,
do
that's
pay a
because they were
monthly bill.
taking water from wells that were on the property, school property. So we had that agreement with the village. And that's why
But I know that expired, so.
that expired,
Yes.
yeah.
And
several
this
years
is a
back.
larger bill than we normally see, and I know there's some we're not a credit.
Oh, okay,
right now.
because that one is quite a
It
chunk.
is quite higher than we normally see.
Yeah.
On to the, I'm all out of order, 29, I have federal funds here. Which is,
On the federal funds, Harbor Freight Grant, we're out of that now, but this is residual.
Right, so this was a grant that our technology teacher
Right.
applied for maybe 2 years ago or
Yeah.
beginning of last year. And this is just it's the end of that, yeah, it's finishing up the spending for that.
Okay, so we owe them that.
No, these were,
How did that?
purchases to Home Central
Oh,
that
okay,
came out of that grant line.
okay.
I love that we were able to use the money locally. Even though it's from the national big bucks. And then school lunch fund. Super exciting there. And then one transaction in capital funds. Is there a motion to approve the warrants? Nate's on it. Is there a second? Second. Thanks, Greg. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Get to recognize our visitors.
We'll go right to left today. So Jeff.
Oh, I'm
Jess?
ready, all right, all right. So I'm Jessica Spaccio, representing the PTA again today. So I'll try to be brief, I know we were in a meeting. So we did a few things last month. We had the math committee in the elementary school sponsored the March Math Madness, and so PTA helped them with that, and we brought food and prizes to that, and that was fun. Last night we had our wellness event. We actually held that here in high school. We brought in Sarah Misson to talk about some different anxiety relief issues, and we also played board games to try to just have like a kind of easy afternoon with the kids yesterday. Our elementary fundraiser is complete and pickup is tomorrow. If anyone's sold, pick those up.
Pickup's Tuesday, not tomorrow.
Oh, not tomorrow, yes, Tuesday, thank you. Tuesday, the 26th. Health kits were distributed to 5th grade last week, and to 6th grade this week. Those were purchased and put together by the PTA. Those include full-sized toothpaste, deodorants, soaps, pads for the girls, so things like that they can take home or keep in the locker as needed. Our next event in April, we're gonna have a parents' night out for 3rd and 4th grades. We'll have the kiddos from 5 to 8 o'clock at night, and there's a little glow party and open gym and stuff like that. And then we have Daffodil Festival at the end of April. That's sponsored by the Candor Chamber of Commerce. We will be volunteering to help them with decorations and also have a booth there. We have more things planned for upcoming spring. The one thing I do want to note, even though it's not till the end of May, is we are sponsoring a post-prom party for the first time in a while. So we will be shortly starting to ask for chaperones and some donations to make that possible. So be on the look out for that. And that's all I've got for now.
Seems like enough. Thank you, all of you, for your continued efforts. Cassie, you don't have to say anything, but you are welcome to if you'd like to.
Hi, I'm a graduating senior. I do have something to say, but it's a lot. So I was also told there's another visitor's time at the end. It might be better to do that then.
Totally cool.
Okay.
We'll wait for it.
I'm here for once.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Katie?
I'm Katie Henderson from Education. I'm just here for sport.
Neil? Sorry.
It's on you.
Neil Fry, President of the Candor Faculty Association. Because one of our students is gonna speak at the end. I have a statement that I'm going to read, and I was gonna read mine at the end also. And my participation in our budget advisory committee meeting, kind of gave me a chance to think about some of the things that I have written down. So I really don't like to ad lib. I don't like to kind of go away from my notes because usually I mess it up. But I'm gonna deliver them now so that Cassie has the opportunity to use all the time later, because I know what she has is important. My typical purpose in speaking to you each month is to highlight some of the valuable activities on the part of at least one or two of our teachers. I'm gonna take a different tack tonight. And to be quite honest, both Ms. Raymond and Mr. Avehart do a much better job of that than I do. It's always impressive when they talk about what the teachers are doing, and I really appreciate the way that they do that, and the way that they highlight our staff. Tonight, I participated in the budget advisory meeting, and frankly was very relieved to hear the discussion, to hear the questions, and the answers that were shared. But I still want to take a few minutes to ask, to implore you to continue to examine as carefully as you can the options and the questions that have been and continue to be presented to you over the next several weeks with regard to next year's budget. More broadly and more importantly, I think, the direction our district is going and the possible paths staked out ahead. I'm asking you to continue to pose the difficult questions about what makes our schools run, what moves people to send their children here, what moves the people who take on the daily charge of educating, maintaining, and managing the school to work here. I'm asking you to continue to ensure that there is a clear and direct line that connects the values this committee holds with the task of running our schools. It's not my prerogative or my objective to present alternatives to you. I'm not declaring that any aspect of the proposals for upcoming budget or spending plan is misguided. I'm not suggesting that there isn't anything inherently wrong with what's coming up. But it would be dishonest of me if I did not say that members of my organization, including me, are wary about our ability to deliver the most complete, effective, and efficient education possible while also adhering to the values this community shares. We've experienced some noted shifts in how some of our daily work priorities have been met. Yes, sometimes the healthy consequences of those shifts can take their time to come to fruition. And sometimes change, even or especially change for the good, is uncomfortable. I understand that. Nevertheless, some of what we see worries us. A cynical person might think I am making a veiled criticism at our administrative team. That would be wrong. I greatly respect, acknowledge, and frankly appreciate the work of every administrator in this district. I think they do a terrific job, personally and professionally. And I know that they, as I do, value different opinions and genuinely appreciate the challenges of a thoughtful, if different, even very different point of view regarding the shape and scope of what children do and learn here each day. And even more specifically, I have a great deal of faith and trust in Mr. Sutterby, our superintendent. I believe he's doing his work well and thoughtfully.
Chris Sun or Chris Farmarter.
But they don't need me to say that. They know me and they know what I think about them. But you, or maybe the other guests here tonight, do need to hear that confidence. And just as in any partnership, disagreement is to be respected and understood. Disagreement is the avenue by which we reach the best decisions and not the easy ones. It allows us to see the broadest view so that we may then see all the possibilities. And I think tonight's budget advisory meeting was a good example of that. As for you, the elected members of this board, it's not a criticism or critique of you or your work either. It's not a lecture. Each of you stood up out among your peers to run for these seats, to take on the task of being a leader in this community for the good of all. I see that each month I'm here, And I feel it in the energy of the place and where you meet. You bring a seriousness of purpose to your task that is to be admired, and I admire it. As a true democratist, though, I believe all elected leaders should be held to account, whether through kindness, collegiality, or competition. So it's in the spirit of collegiality, in the sense that we are truly all in this together, that I ask you to continue to interrogate and be sure that every dollar spent and every dollar not spent, be sure that every class that is taught and each class that is not taught, and you be sure that the assignment of every educator, teacher, or aide, and the assignments that might not be filled, I ask you be sure that each of these decisions is connected directly to the values you hold and bring to the table. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well done.
Yes. So we'll be back for you, but now we're gonna go to, that's not, we'll be back to hear you. So we have two considerations. First is the capital reserve fund resolution. And where did that land in terms of the legalese and stuff? I guess it can be added.
Yeah, so I'm gonna have to make sure it's okay to be added, that's the plan. And so with the capital reserve fund, we realize that when that goes on the ballot as a proposition, it's a lot of legalese. So I'm going to check with our attorneys to make sure it's okay, make sure my wording's correct, that I can put a simple sentence or two that states, we are simply asking to extend the capital. Create a new one to replace the one that ends. In my mind, it's the same as extending, but it's not. It's good. So that one does end in 2025, and we want to create a new one, so we can still have capital funds.
So I called them and asked if we could do that, because I know what we're doing, and by the time I got to the end, I didn't understand what I was being asked to vote yes or no on. So if there's any way we can simplify that, because this will be on the ballot that everybody sees.
Right. What's there is pretty much boilerplate. It came from our attorneys. It's the way it's written. I'm sure there are reasons it's written that way, but I'm confident we can clear it up. I just want to make sure that the way we do it is clear enough and still.
So, in simple terms, what happens to the existing capital project fund because it expires this year?
Right.
And the new one replaces it.
Right.
And
And
each,
the funds from the current one go into the
okay,
new one.
that was the second part of my
And I
question.
think that's what has,
Got it.
we went back and forth quite a bit, Kathy, Mrs. Sinkle and the attorney's office, because the language to make all of those three things happen in one resolution.
Yeah.
So
But it's
it's end of one, create a new one, move those funds
Yeah.
from one
So
to
the
the other. The
original
voters
one
have to
goes
approve
away.
all of that.
right, the money that's there
Money
rolls
that's
over,
there
and that's
rolls
where I was
over,
thinking,
okay.
kind of extends makes sense in my mind, but that's not the correct term. Or one's ending, we're rolling the money into a brand new one that starts, we would have 5 years.
Are there any other questions on the capital reserve and on the resolution? Okay, is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Okay, we've got Ray and Hope and they tied. All those in favor? Any opposed?
So that legalese is a third of a page and is one sentence.
This is crazy. Our other consideration is the bus purchase proposition resolution. Were there any questions on this? This one is less legal. This one I understand what we're trying to do. Is there a motion to approve it? Thanks, Nate. Second?
Second.
Thanks, Greg. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? On to the consent agenda. We have a few items. Were there any items in the consent agenda that should be pulled up for separate consideration? Hearing none, are there any questions on any items in the consent agenda?
I'm assuming that you had plans to, I mean, this is kind of gonna take with John Benjamin's retirement, in addition to Steve Lindridge's retirement. That's gonna leave a big hole in our technology.
Those are, yes. We've already talked about how we can shift and manage the middle school technology requirement. And then we need to fill that position to keep our program going.
Yeah.
And we will. Do I?
Yeah, that's,
Motion ahead, names,
we are gonna be missing some key people for the
absolutely.
fall. And that's critical if the technology department is essentially got it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions on the consent agenda?
10.2C, full-time Spanish teacher appointment. Can you tell me how that is working?
Right, so we've had that position, Spanish teachers are very hard to find. We've had that position open since the beginning of the year. We did some more promotion of the position in our community, and we got some quality applicants. And Wayne and a committee interviewed her, and then Kim and I followed up with an interview. And because we have someone good, we want to bring her on board. What will happen, because we've been making do without that person, but there's still, as you will point out, there's more than enough good work to do. And we need to bring her in now. The position's been open all year. It will relieve the one Spanish teacher that we have who's been teaching. I want to say all, it's not really fair because we did use a computer-based program and have another teacher facilitating that. But that also takes some Spanish teacher time. So we'll be able to alleviate some of the pressure for the rest of this year and hit the ground running next year. Is that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I will.
Thanks, Greg. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Greg. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Request from administrators. Wayne, you're up first.
Thank you. To start off, just highlighting some of the opportunities that are being provided for our ag students. Some of the trips they've taken to some local businesses, Mackey's Tree Farm, Christmas Tree Farm, West Candor Maple, they just went to here a week or two ago. Really awesome trip. I actually went to that one with them as well. Side Hills Acres Boat Farm, they've been there multiple times, and A Dairy Farm. It's just nice for these kids who have shown an interest to at least explore agriculture, to be able to get out there and actually get that experiential opportunity of walking on site and actually seeing what the businesses look like. So just wanted to give you a little idea of what they're doing to expose our kids to some of these opportunities that are out there. Shape Up New York, I'm old and I can't remember. I almost think Brent talked about this a little bit at one point, but I just want to give a little follow-up. Candor was selected with a number of schools around New York State to work with the Office of Mental Health to just assess their mental health programs within their districts to see, if there's a target area that they can make some improvements. And Merrick Volpe and Karina Evanco, our social workers, have taken the lead on this with a team, a Shape New York team. Have some teachers, our mental health providers. Mrs. Davenport's on it as a board member, and Pete and myself. And they have a gentleman from OCs as well. we've done a lot of surveys, had some conversations, trying to pinpoint where we think we would get the most benefit for our district on focusing to improve our mental health system. And at this point, it's looking like, really figuring out and mapping where the resources are in our county and what's available to support our students so that we can connect families with these resources that are out there in order to allow families the opportunity to utilize them. So that's what our focus is now, and we've all been, I think, getting a little bit of homework for our next meeting. We meet monthly. So I just wanted to let you know that we're making some progress with that program, and I want to thank Merrick and Karina for the lead on that. Lastly, just so you know, the CBT, the state testing's coming up for the grades 3 through 8 computer-based testing, all computer-based now. So it's a lot more complicated than kids just sitting down and taking tests on the computer. There's a lot of planning and work that goes into that. And when I say it takes a lot of work, not as much nearly for me as it does for Matt and Eva Collier, who take the lead on that. So I appreciate them doing that. The first testing coming up, was it April 16th and 17th for the ELA 3 through 8. Fingers crossed that the network holds up and the state doesn't have we've had some bumps in the road with that in the past, not on our end, but hopefully we're all getting a little better at this and it'll go well. So I just want to acknowledge those that are putting the time in to leave that so close.
I've been gone a long time. What does CBT stand for?
Computer-based testing.
Oh,
yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So, all these nice new acronyms out there. So, I guess the last thing I'll just say is, I don't know if anyone got a chance to go to the musical. Those kids do a great job every year. Zombie Prom, that was last weekend, and just want to give a thumbs up to our students that perform those musicals.
Thanks, Wayne.
Yeah.
Pete, you're up.
So the first piece I reported on before and after school numbers update. I know this topic is pretty big for our community. I get a lot of questions about before school and after school. So I shared the most recent numbers. As you can see, they're at the highest right now. I also included the days per week and the pricing at the bottom of that chart as well, so you can kind of see where they're at. I did talk to the supervisor of that program. Many of the kids do use that subsidy from the county. Very few of them pay that full price that you see there. I did try to find comparables to try to share with you guys. The only comparables that I found were around the Elmira area that did cost about the same. And again, there's subsidies for those as well. But a neighboring district, I do want to be transparent, they do offer it at no cost. I did talk to that supervisor of that program. The district assumes the cost for the salaries and pays for it with district funds. So, quite common, we've had a few occasions where staffing has been an issue in this program, where we've had to cancel a couple of nights due to shortage of staff, whether they were COVID positive, had the bug, whatever, and they couldn't fit the parameters of the program requirements of, I think it's 1 to 10 students, I think it is, or maybe 1 to 8, depending on the age. So that's a challenge. Staffing is always going to be a challenge. But I share that information with you. Hopefully, as we get towards the warmer months, they do tend to grow the numbers. Those are pretty significant gains too. As you can see, we started with 9 and we're at 20 consistently. So the second piece of the student placement process, this is always, it always takes a lot of work on the end of the teachers, and they spend a lot of time for next year creating the class list. We started this last year about this time last year, where teachers could get in classes and see students with needs, so they can see the needs firsthand, so they can be better prepared for them when and if they do enter their classroom. So it's just another opportunity for just that higher level of thoroughness for these class lists to be created. And that'll start here in the next couple of weeks where teachers can get in. And then after the observation, they can debrief with the teacher about those needs of the students after the observation. The final placement, though, it does fall in my hands. I do look at all of the class lists from all of the teachers. We still do not take requests from parents. I do listen to parents when they call and ask You know, whatever the request is, I do listen to it, but I can't guarantee placement, and I won't guarantee placement. I'm pretty transparent about that for several reasons. I trust the teachers to make these lists, and 99% of the lists stay the same. There are occasions where due to IEPs, I have to move classes around. But for the most part, 99% of the lists stay the same of what the teachers created, because they do spend a lot of time doing that. I wanted to give you some insight on what our faculty meetings look like. I try to have a piece of PD almost every month, because that's the time when I get all eyes and ears in the building in the same place at the same time. So the PD this month was the self-checking the classroom discourse quality. That's part of the APPR, and we just looked at what's best practice for kids when you expect classroom discussion. What does your classroom discussion look like? I posted several questions that they can ask themselves as teachers to kind of gauge where their classroom discourse quality is, whether it's high level or a lower level. And we went over those questions and kind of talked about high quality discourse, what that looks like. Also, the trauma informed piece that Merrick does every month. Merrick Opie, our social worker, is on the bottom there. But I try to give our staff an opportunity to share. As you can see, there's those staff members, Merrick Opie, Mariah Young, shared at this faculty meeting some of the great things that they're doing and some of their skill set. They share it with the staff, just so staff doesn't have to hear me speak for the whole time. So it's a good opportunity for us to capture the entire building in one place. But I thought it was important for you guys to see what our teachers talk about once a month. That first bullet there, reviewing district goals, is really important. It really focuses and grounds our decisions as we make curricular, instructional, professional development decisions. All of our teachers know what they are in the building. And oftentimes when a teacher comes with a conference request or a PD request, we talk about how it directly impacts our district goals, just to stay disciplined and grounded in what our vision is as a building. It's really important to do that. The last piece there, the learning walks, Kim's talked about this in her goals. She talks about our SMART goals every month. This addresses our SMART goals directly. Pacing, the fidelity of the programs, student engagement, what it looks like, sounds like, and feels like, and the learning targets are all what Sarah and I look for as we go through the classroom. This is about a 10 to 15 minute visit. We have an electronic form that we fill out. It tracks the data that after we fill out, it sends it directly to the teacher so that they get the feedback before we even leave the room. And then it tracks data so we can make informed decisions over the summer when we have to revisit this goal again this summer, and what our learning walks look like going into next year. So Sarah and I have gotten quite a bit done. We've gotten 30 of them done on top of our evaluations for teachers. So this is pretty consistently us walking through classrooms, and the teachers don't see it as an evaluation. I'm very clear that it's not an evaluation. It's not evaluative anyway. It's really just feedback and reflection for them. So it's going over pretty well. I just got a text message while we were in the budget meeting about a teacher I visited today saying just a question about her feedback and wanted clarity on it. So teachers do look at it and use it. So I think this is a tool that we find as an admin team very beneficial. So any questions, we have the answer.
Thanks. Up to Matt.
So the first part is the Smart Schools Bond Act, and I'll just give a little bit of history because I think we talk about it once a year maybe, and some of you may not even know what it is. So in 2014, the taxpayers of New York voted to pass a bond act. I think it was 1.2 billion or 1.4 billion for all schools, divided up amongst all the schools. Our allocation was just over $900,000 to be used for technology, high-tech and security, and a couple other categories. And due to a confluence of a few events, we spent very little of that money, which now that we're talking budget stuff is for me, when I think about my budget, is great. Unfortunately, we can't spend it on software, which is a growing cost all the time. But back in 2014, we were in a big building project that revamped all of our hardware, all of our cabling in the buildings and all of our network closets. That was already in the building project, so we didn't have to use the money that many schools did to replace all of that equipment. So we were good there. I did submit a Smart Schools Bond Act allocation or plan. Our initial plan, I think it was in 2019, for classroom hardware, Chromebooks, some STEM, kits, but primarily hardware, projectors, for classrooms. And then we had COVID, which then we allocated money from the COVID ESSER money to technology. So we used that money and didn't need to use the Smart Schools money. So that kicked that down the road. So we still haven't spent that money. So the nice part about that is that initial allocation, that initial plan, we still have that money and we can use that until we spend it. It's never going to go away, which is great. So we have a lot of money to replace hardware when it fails, which it always will fail and always need to replace. So that's a really great thing for our infrastructure and hardware costs. This particular plan was sort of started about a year ago because of Day Automation was looking at our servers for our camera system and noted that they needed to be replaced. And the money that in the first plan couldn't be shifted to that, so I had to apply for a new plan for the Smart Schools. And that took almost a year to kind of work its way through. And now that money is here. And in that intervening time, the technology is, the compression technology of the video increased, and they were able to do a little bit of magic on the servers so that we don't need to replace them right now. We can wait maybe another 9 months, maybe a year, maybe a little bit longer to replace those. But if something were to fail, we do have the money to replace them right away. And they're very expensive. I mean, $30,000, for a server with all the hard drives and the related cost to install it. So it's not just an expense that we can just kind of come up with. So it's nice to have that money available. That's what part of this money is for. And then the other part of the money is to upgrade our emergency lockdown system so that it is more in line with what Day is recommending throughout the state wherever they install it. So when the lockdown button is hit, it automatically dials a call to 911. And we will be installing, I believe, some strobe lights on the outside of the building. So if buses are pulling in and we suddenly have to go into lockdown, they'll know that, we're in a lockdown, and it's very clearly communicated in that way to the outside. So and then an automatic call goes over the intercom that we're in a lockdown, so that somebody doesn't have to try and make an announcement when they're very nervous in a high stress situation. So really good upgrades to that. And then any funds that are left over, we can use to replace door locks. So our electronic door locks at all of our doors are relatively expensive. And as with anything, they age out and are starting to show signs of wear. So we're hoping to use some money to not have to take it out of maintenance budget, but to use this money to support that. So the Smart Schools bond money has been a godsend for a lot of these high ticket and even Chromebook type costs that we would normally have to find a place in our budget for. So thank you to the voters of New York State for that many, many years ago. The device inventory with computer-based testing coming up, I want to make sure that we have devices that are working and they're in good order, that we know where our devices are. So around this time every year, we go through and make sure we know where our devices are and find things that might be missing. Lock down devices that I walk up to a student and like, I don't see that your computer's been turned on. do you still have it? And they're like, yeah, I think it's under my bed. And so they dig it out and we check it and make sure it's working. Because fortunately, Neil has devices up here that they can borrow. And so sometimes we have some people that borrow them on a regular basis. We have devices in classrooms for students to borrow. So sometimes it's hard to know if a student's borrowing a device all the time because they're borrowing it from different people in some ways. So finding your Chromebooks is always important and just keeping track of our devices. And then also Matt Sano will be working on our Windows devices, inventorying those. And we will, over the summer, be adding them to a Windows domain. So we're not really adding any new Windows devices. We might be replacing a few, but essentially the way that Mike set up our system was great in terms of security. Each device is just a local device. Users log into it. They're not networked and connected in a way that many organizations are connected, where you could walk up to a machine, type in your username and password, and all of your stuff is there. We don't have that right now, and that's good in some ways for security, and it's bad in some ways for security. So we are looking to, for the same price that we pay for our licensing now, move to a cloud domain for Microsoft that would allow us, once our devices are enrolled, it will allow us to lock out devices, make sure things are updated remotely from a dashboard, and see, have some more analytics on those devices, and just have a little bit more control over those devices. So Matt will be working on that towards the end of this year, and then over the summer to have upgrade that system to be more in line with current technology trends.
Will that make us less secure or undo any of the security that Mike built in?
So the many schools where that security piece came in was they would have a domain controller on site, and if a bad actor were able to get into the network and then work their way through the network, potentially getting into that domain controller. Now that those domain controllers are in the cloud, and cloud security is a little bit more strictly managed in the cloud platforms, not necessarily by our staff having to manage those on site. And I think that that's where many times things, where the failure happens with schools that are understaffed in their tech department. Some things get missed, whereas in the cloud, fewer things can get missed because there's those companies that's what they do, managing those security. So I think that the potential added risk to security would be offset by the control that we have over those devices.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we ended our winter season on March 9th, and what a way to end it when we had Caitlin Floyd at the New York State Bowling Championships. She represented us really well. Her average was 184 for 6 games at states, and I think her average for the year was like 178. So she bested what she did throughout the season, which was really cool. The JV boys basketball team won the IAC Small School South Division Championship. The varsity boys won the IAC Small School South Division Championship. They also made it the furthest that they have in sectionals in 17 years, which was pretty cool. They were also a scholar athlete team, which means that 75% of the team has an average of 90 or above, and theirs was a 95% average for those 9 students. Pretty cool. The varsity girls won the IAC Small School South Division as well, and had 5 athletes that were scholar athlete team. Candor bowling, the girls won the IAC Large School Division Championship. We were large school because we were merged. When we initially did numbers, Spencer had kids, but when it came down to it, it was too late to switch. They didn't have anybody, so it truly was a Candor team that won the large school, which was cool. And they had 3 athletes that had a 90% average. The varsity wrestlers had 1 wrestler from Spencer Manhattan, so that was an SVAC team. And we had 1 wrestler that went to states. And they had junior boys, that was our varsity boys, I believe. I don't know what my notes mean on that, so I'll skip that. The next thing was the Student Advisory Athletic Council. So this was the 3rd year I was able to go. I think that was the first year I took over. It was one of the first things I did. We had 7 students go. We had 3 student athletes who were actually presenting this year. Grace Handy, Phoebe Sports, and James Kane were all presenters. And then we had 4 students, Jacoby Foster, Andrea Duffy, Wyatt Ross, and Shauna Conklin, who went to listen to the presentations. And probably the coolest part about it was when we got in the van to come back, 2 of them said, how do I get involved with this next year? I want to be a presenter. I was like, ah! It was just really cool. So I gave you all the information on the SAC presentations. The AED grant. So this I started writing last March, I think, and it was through the Floyd Hooker Foundation, and it was the premise behind writing the grant was to get AEDs for our teams that maybe are off campus, that don't have the access that we have right here. When we have teams that go away, we don't always have enough traveling AEDs. So that was the point, was to make sure that every team had an AED with them. And although we have them in the buildings, if it happens out on a field, that might not be close enough. When I went for the grant, they recommended that we go with other Tioga County schools. So Spencer Manhattan and Tioga joined forces, and we did just get the grant, and we were awarded 4 each. So we just got them last week. So Lonnie is in the process of doing all the battery updating, making sure that he's got them all on schedule with all the other ones. And we're submitting our final project for the grant. So that was pretty cool to have that awarded. So thank you to the Floyd Hooker Foundation, because they were awesome to work with. And obviously it was an $18,000 grant, which is pretty cool. So, Katie, you want to talk about transportation?
Sure. So I talked about our superintendent's conference day, which for us at transportation is huge. We start at 6:30 in the morning and go to 4:30 in the afternoon with split shifts. So for us to get our whole crew in the same building at the same time is really only happens on superintendent conference days. So we really like to take advantage of those. We kind of shifted a little bit this time. Twice a year we have to do required New York State Education Department trainings. So we did that training. Holly and I presented that. But we also took a little bit of a time to create a mission statement just for transportation for us in-house, what we want to strive for each day, what we want to show up to work, and what we want to give the kids every day, what we want the community to see us as. It was really nice for all the drivers to participate. We played some games with the drivers, and it was just really nice for them to build that mission statement of what we want to show the kids every day, what we want the kids to see. The New York State Education Department training this time was about special ed. So we talked to them a lot about special ed and what that means on their buses and what their role is in an IEP if there's special needs on the bus, which was great for them to know. And then we have 2 drivers that play the guitar. So they gave us a little jam session afterwards and created a boost in morale over there. It was kind of cool. I also talked in the report about spring bus drills, which we'll be doing spring bus drills soon. And we're going to twist them up a little bit. Again, New York State Education Department gives us exactly what we have to do on our spring drills. But Chris Turberry created this really cool document. It's a half-page of paper talking about what we're going to talk about in our bus drills, so the kids have something to take home with. And then it's like a little mini report card for the drivers to fill out for the kids, saying, Johnny does this really well, or they can circle needs improvement. So it kind of will give parents a little insight of what their child's like on the bus, or what the positive comments are for their kids on the bus, as well as show what we're talking about with our bus drills. So it gives them something to talk to them about too.
Those. Miss Kim.
All right, so the first part of the report I really just summarized the activities from our March 15th Superintendent's Conference Day. Pete and the elementary faculty hosted Dr. Heidi Beverin Curry from the Reading League, and they had 2 sessions. The first was a comprehensive review of all of the learning that has been done, participated in this year. And then the afternoon was a revisit of the 6-step lesson plan. So she had presented this in December, but the feedback from the teachers to Pete was they wanted more support with that, and they had a lot of questions. It was a great conversation, and I think she answered a lot of their questions. She gave even more examples, but went back to examples from December so that they really know how to implement. The 6-step lesson plan is intended to be used as an intervention model with students that aren't quite where they need to be with their reading levels. So, and all of the teachers were there. It's not just the classroom teachers. The special area teachers understand what the 6-step lesson plan is. Not that any of them have to use it right tomorrow, but the classroom teachers have already started using it. And then the senior high school, I'll say my report said Mr. Amon and Mr. Sotheby presented to the building, but Mr. Sotheby informed me that it really was Mr. Amon that took the lead and just presented work, again, literacy focused. And Wayne highlighted brief number 3, so from state ed, the literacy brief, the science of reading, the role of writing, and literacy brief number 6, the science of reading in the secondary years. And he also shared an article from Brockton schools, right? Which was a presentation he went to, I think it was 2016, 17, and brought that back just to kind of energize them. And I think you guys even did a similar welcoming activity that we did, the board and admins, at our strategic planning meeting number 1 about why do you show up every day? Why do you do this? Why are you a teacher? So that was just a summary of the activities. And I didn't put it in the report, a thank you to Michelle Doherty and the kitchen staff. They set up in both buildings separately. So they had 2 setups that day, where typically we would have set up just in the high school and everyone would have had their lunch here. I just want to say thank you, because I know there was a lot of work put into that to make that happen in separate buildings. And then the second half, because we're right in the thick of annual reviews, I thought I would just give a quick overview. On average, 12 to 15 meetings per week. The duration can last anywhere from 30 minutes to 75 or more, depending. And then I just listed out, what does that mean? And that doesn't even really give credit where credit is due to all of the players. I said it involves a team approach when you prepare for an annual review. It's the special education teacher, the classroom teacher, a therapist, or many therapists, the CSE office, the facilitating the meetings, the parents, the student. It's a lot of, there are many moving parts, and to have that come together for what's best for our kids, it's a lot of good work that's being done. And then I just put the numbers in there. And this is just CPSE, CSE, so Committee on Special Education, or Committee on Preschool Special Education, that those numbers do not include our 504 accommodation plan students. And I think what's, I look at that CPSE number 29, and again, I have to thank Brent, the board, to support having Sarah Loomis filling that CPSE chairperson role. That's a big caseload, and the work that she does for our families in that entry point is huge, and we know early intervention is critical. So just wanted to share some of the numbers so you guys know. On the back, I think Wayne referenced it, Pete, the district priorities, we try to keep them, front and center. It'll be interesting. I know Brent's report references our strategic planning process, but this year, these are our district priorities. I highlighted or bolded the most recent updates. So literacy instruction across all content areas. Again, that continued professional development from the superintendent's conference day. The vocab and comprehension, that's continued work in this building, especially in the junior senior high school with the word of the week, plus more explicit lists and explicit instructional practices in the classrooms. And then I would jump down to, let's see, implementing a multi-tiered system of supports. And it's not just academic, it's also social, emotional, and behavioral. So the update there, the work from the student support team and that collaboration with Tioga County to identify the resources that are available to our students and to the families. And then the last item, maintaining a safe and supportive environment and encouraging a positive culture. Wayne already referenced the work with the Shape Up New York.
My one question on the numbers were very helpful. Are we percentage-wise close to other districts? I mean, I just did quick math and it was like 20% of the elementary and 35-ish% of the high school based on 50 kids a grade.
I think 35% might be a little high. But,
well, does the out-of-district placement include? No, that wouldn't include VOTEC, that would only include, yeah.
Oh, you know what? That's high. 16 isn't, I think I might have put the total in there. I apologize. Let me double check that because that's not 712. Let me double check.
Oh, no, so it'd be 300. So my math, because I was thinking 4 grades. So that that'll be.
I know we're not at 35% classification rate in the high school.
Right.
But compared to the state, I want to say the state, when we did Beds Day data, it might have been 18%. So we're right there. Compared to other districts, after the Beds Day data, I did compare. We are in line with some, higher than a couple, and then there, I think, are 2 within the region that are higher than us. But I can come back and check and report that next month.
And thank you to all the people who make all those moving parts happen and everything. Your team who gets all the right people in the room. And then makes decisions. Like, you don't just have to get them there, then you have to work through all the stuff, so yes.
And the families are very, they're very supportive and accommodating and.
Chris, you're up.
I spent an hour talking about budgety stuff before, so I'll just take a minute and talk about just some of the business office stuff. Earlier this year, we implemented or automated the requisitioning and accounts payable process, and now we've just finished the payroll process. Taylor Green has been fantastic, instrumental in getting that up and running, and loves the information that she's able to get, the efficiencies that's created, the ability for her to not duplicate record keeping on spreadsheets inside the software, and just making those connections all the way through the modules of Envision have been really beneficial for our office. So continue to work on those and continue to work on budget.
Thank you. And Brett.
I appreciate that Mike, Bernie, and Sean came down. I had told the board every month I'll give you an update on the capital projects. And I think they did a really thorough job, but if there are any questions, I'm happy that things are moving forward. There seemed like there was a real long period of just waiting for state ed. I was extremely happy when Carrie, the architect, let me know yesterday that state ed is finally looking at our submission. So things are falling into place with that. Again, if there are any questions, we don't have to wait for a board meeting, just give me a call. But that's going as well as I could hope at this point. I wanted to talk a little bit more about Friday's Superintendent's Conference Day. And when I sent you the report, it hadn't happened yet. There are too many people to thank, literally, than we have time to. I could go on and on, but what I'm most impressed with, well, this whole team, and then the staff and faculty leaders who step up. The only word I can think of is blessed. I am blessed to be here because everyone down here not only knows their own lane and does their job exceedingly well, they're not afraid to step out of their lane and help out colleagues. Whether it's our business official that understands and knows good instruction and curriculum and is always able to weigh in, right down the line. I want to give a special shout out to Wayne and Pete for their presentations. I got to go to both of them, but when I was in them, it was striking that I've been through a lot of teacher professional development over my career, and it was usually a lot of sit and get, and I'm a good student, and I learned a lot. At both buildings, there was more teacher, not only participation, but leadership shown, where people are stepping up with the right questions or the right insights or the right, and again, I like it. The elementary teachers are really pretty competitive. When they did that Jeopardy, there were a few of them that got a little scary because they wanted to have the best score, but it was a lot of fun. So thank you for that, and again, to everyone who participated. Then we jump to the budget committee. I want to thank everyone for the participation. As I said in there, we're at a point where to include everybody to really listen, it kind of gets to be a messy process. And when you're not flush with money, it can be a difficult process, but it's a good process. And I feel thankful, blessed. And then the strategic planning process. It's funny how many times people, when Neil talked and everybody talked, and that Kim puts in our district priorities every month, which is a very, very good practice that I appreciate. I think it will culminate in the strategic plan. Once we take what the community values are around education and what the board and faculty and staff feel are the right priorities, and we come to consensus about that and can put it into a strategic plan that we can use as a reference point to guide all of our decisions. I mean, all of our decisions, whether it's budgetary, instructionally, planning for a year, or just instructionally in the classroom. Is it a lot with transportation? And I love that you're putting together your, core values and mission statement that will, I'm sure, be aligned with the overarching district plan. Good work. I did put down some of the things that came out of the thought exchange, and I was thrilled. A month ago, I had said I was a little disappointed in the initial response to our thought exchange, and that turned around in those last 2 weeks. And then as Kevin McGowan pointed out, we had a better percentage, given the size of our district, than any of the districts he worked in, and particularly community participation. So I'm extremely appreciative of that too. So thank you. I know but it's genuine. And then on the back, there's no surprises. Out of the thought exchange in our last meeting, what we need to consider as the clear district priorities are there, and they're broken down into 3 categories of the school and community experience, what we're looking for, and what we mean by academic excellence, and then operational. So I'm looking forward to the committee meeting on April 10th, where again, the conversation will still be led by the administrative team and the board, but we'll include more of the community and of course the faculty and staff, and make sure that everyone's had a chance to weigh in and we've considered all points of view before we put together a plan.
Thanks. So we are to board comments. I have to apologize, I have to go run and get my phone for board, but if anybody else has a board comment, shoot, I go fast.
It's a long evening. We started with.
So I have a couple of things. First, I want to reiterate what Wayne said, congratulating the students on their spring musical. It's really great to see how much fun those students were having up on stage, and obviously that's something I'm partial to from my own school experience. What I do want us to think about is equity when it comes to extracurricular opportunity and infrastructure. Because one of the things I did notice is that our auditorium has not kept pace in terms of upgrading and making sure that we have current technology or that things are being maintained to the level that they should be in that space. And I would like to see us utilize the strong pool of technical theater people that exist in this region to utilize what we do have more effectively when we're doing this programming, especially our lighting and our sound equipment that we have. It's just a missed opportunity to be able to round out the experience that students have, whether it's in theater productions, whether it's the music performances for band and chorus, or any of the presentations that are done in that space. I think there's room for improvement and utilization of other talents in the community to raise the bar there. The other thing that I would like to touch on is I've gotten a number of reach outs from constituents with concerns over restroom access in the high school. My understanding is that the restrooms were reopened across the building this week. But I am concerned because there's very clear guidance from state ed about access to restroom facilities. And I'm concerned about the number of months that was severely restricted for students. And Wayne, I'm wondering if you can offer any comment on that.
Yeah, we had a lot of vandalization going on in the bathrooms. After having no luck figuring out exactly who was the culprit, it was causing a tremendous amount of work and effort for our custodians each day to have to go in there, unplug toilets, pull paper towels out of the toilets, water being dumped all over the floor. This was boys and girls bathrooms. And I understand it's what we did is we did follow the regulations. This is not anything any of us wanted to do. And it went last year. We actually threatened to take away their John Hancock Day, and we did because it kept going. And that didn't even curb it. So we ended up closing one bathroom upstairs, one downstairs. Each floor has to have a bathroom open. We were following guidelines. This is what we wanted. No, we want kids to stop causing mischief in the bathrooms and causing all this extra work on our custodial staff that has to keep going in there day after day cleaning up bathrooms. So that's why the decision was made. This year we started off fresh with the bathrooms open and the same nonsense went on. So we closed it again. So we did just reopen it. We put in the Smart Pass system. I think I talked about it or Matt talked about it. So now we can get an idea of exactly who's who's going to the bathroom. And when we see, and we check them regularly. So we're hoping now when we see an issue in a bathroom, we can see who left, find out who it is, and have a better idea of who the culprits are. So we're really hoping that this Smart Pass system will really help alleviate this issue. And I'm hoping the kids learn from it too. I don't get paid extra for closing bathrooms. It's not what I want, but our custodians don't get paid extra for cleaning up a mess every day too. So we have to be thoughtful for them. And it's easier to monitor one bathroom than it is monitoring 8 bathrooms on the floor. So that's why we did it. No one wants to do it. I'm glad we opened it again. I'm hoping now that we have this Smart Pass system in place and all the teachers are comfortable with it, and kids are comfortable with it, I'm hoping this will help alleviate the issue.
So Matt, to you, on the technological front, there are a lot of available products on the market now to help, I think, in this space. The vape alarms that also have sound sensors in them to pick up sounds that could be associated with a bullying event. There's several companies that are offering free trials of those products to school districts to see how they work. There's also lifetime reporting to staff. I know vaping has been an issue, so I'm just hoping that maybe we can incorporate some of that technological advancement to help curb this problem.
We are reading them.
Yeah,
We are working with the DTSA through Casa Trinity. They're actually overdue. And they do offer all of that. And again, that'll be another step towards being able to monitor our bathrooms right now. But, I can't have a staff sit in the bathroom. That's just very uncomfortable for kids, nor is it tasteful.
Yeah.
So.
And I would
we're
never
waiting for
expect
these-
that.
Yeah, we're waiting for these other technologies to help out.
Great, I'm glad to hear that.
I just wanted to do a quick report out on the Get on the Bus event. I was not able to go, but my husband and my son ended up going. It was not well attended. He said there were like 7 people there total. Yeah. So he was disappointed about that. The email he just wrote me, which is why I needed my phone, I'll forward you because it has a lot of like detailed stuff on. But I guess the takeaways, there were folks from Ithaca there, and they have 5 out of 90 e-buses right now, and they said we cannot make all electric work. Can't do it. But their message out to all the districts was try to get one bus, run it on flat routes, run it on hilly routes, run it all over, test it, and then get data, because they think you'll have a better case for saying it doesn't work if you have the data to show what works with it. Now, our funding situation is not the same as Ithaca's, right? But there's a bunch of information about grants in here and all that as well. And the other idea, which was Rob's idea, the BOCES people like, that's really good, is to kind of band together all the component districts and send all the, like, have a clearinghouse of data for our BOCES so that then BOCES can go advocate for us. Yes. That kind of thing. That's all I have. I mean, there's a lot more, but those are the takeaways.
Thank you.
Are there any other board comments? Okay, so I want to say thank you for showing up. It takes some guts to say anything in front of a whole room of grown-ups before you've said anything, so I want to applaud you, and the floor is yours.
Okay. So as some of you know, my name is Cass Bogash. I was sort of introduced before. I want to talk about 3 specific grievances that I've heard from a large portion of the student body, specifically in relation to the administration. The first one I want to talk in a bit more depth with, just because it's something that I've had a lot more contact with administration about, and have some more
So,
knowledge.
Cass, the general rule is that you don't mention specific people. Okay, you know what, cool.
And I'm old and one of my hearing aid batteries died, so if you could speak up a little louder.
Okay.
Thanks.
On March 9th, I provided a table of care products to the women's bathroom outside of the gym during a vendor fair. Since at least the beginning of the school year, myself and several other students have been supplying each other with products, both through student-to-student transfers and by leaving significant numbers of these products directly in the bathrooms, albeit on a slightly less formal basis. On the table was a note stating that as a fellow student, I urge others to enact their First Amendment right to petition the school for having their needs met. Because at the time it didn't seem like those needs were being met. At some point between 7 10:45 and 11 a.m. the following school day, it was removed. Several reasons were given by administrative staff, including that they couldn't identify who had left it, although there were several hall cameras which likely could have identified me. And I did come forward after the fact to identify myself. There was also a concern about potential tampering or vandalism, although I think, to my knowledge, there was not vandalism of that specific site or activity, and it was mostly based on assumption of future actions. Furthermore, I don't believe that there has ever been a case in which supplies have been provided directly by a student and been vandalized. There was also great care taken in which products were to be provided, mostly to prevent inclusion and prevent misuse like tampering. Where am I? And the only products left remaining after the table was taken out were two soap dispensers, which were on the sinks, and arguably the most tamperable items there. So I don't. That's just there. Other reasons included that pregnancy tests, which was one of the products that I provided, are unacceptable or even illegal to provide in a school setting. If the latter is true, my apologies, although considering I and the large majority of older students I know personally are both sexually active and or have been victims of sexual assault, I'd be interested in knowing what specific regulation that is in reference to. Finally, it was stated several times that anything brought into the school had to be authorized by administration, and that the administration was not in favor of students spending their own money on those items. But again, this has been a practice that's been going on for the majority of the year, as far as I'm aware. And also in clear view of where the where administration and janitorial staff could have seen it. After several in-person correspondence, there was a promise to find some kind of resolution. That resolution, as I discovered, was placing government-grade products on top of field dispensers, which is where students had already been placing their own products in the past. This is also rather than the higher quality products, which were provided even after they had been vouched for as untampered with. The products that were on the table are as follows: hair ties, bobby pins, multiple pairs of black leggings for size inclusivity, a sewing kit, pregnancy tests, first aid kits, cotton rounds, makeup wipes for multiple skin types, and skin tones and such, skin-free or scent-free baby wipes, spray and deodorant, dry shampoo spray, hairspray, detangler spray, moisturizer, and several brands of pads, tampons, and panty liners. And if the PTSA is doing anything to figure out this issue, I'd be very interested in that later on. But I'd just like to say that all of these things are things that I have had requested, have had requests directed towards me at one point or another. And many of these items are things that I would have needed in the past and perhaps put myself in dangerous situations to get them. The main thing that started off this event and caused me to place the table there in the first place was several weeks ago that several seniors had come to me to express that our lunch advisors, as well as several other teachers, and just advisors in general throughout the school, throughout different grade levels, were not providing students with the opportunity to go to the nurses or water fountains, or even in some cases the bathrooms. And this is something that's happened throughout every single grade, but was brought to me by seniors. That's mainly the end of the first topic. I'm not a big public speaker. But the second topic is mainly to do with access to water and public utilities. When it was the case that it was brought to me that many advisors were not allowing students to use water fountains, I went around and I kind of looked at the water fountains that are in the school. I just want to say that this information came to me after the school had removed the water dispensers from the cafeteria, as well as the vending machines. I don't think I should really have to state that, especially after the cafeteria was prevented from distributing salt. I think that happened a few years ago. I think before that, there was salt accessible in the cafeteria. Especially after that, withholding water from teenagers, especially in a community where many of the students are impoverished and prone to low blood pressure, is just extremely dangerous. I know several students personally who throughout my high school career have fainted on campus. And out of the school water fountains, about a third of them are in some way dysfunctional. The majority of these are in places that would otherwise be exposed to consistent public use. Some of these include the one in front of the gym, which is also right around the corner from the cafeteria. Those around the library and those around the auditorium. In fact, there is a water fountain right around that corner where the elevators are that has been out of order for around 6 years due to a lack of parts, which means that few, if any, students in the entire building have ever been around to use it. Many of these water fountains seem to still be, pumping water out, I guess. And several students did try to use them, sometimes out of vandalism, sometimes just out of need. And resulting from that was, as far as students could tell, several increasingly complex signs and contraptions laid over them. Some community members cited vandalism or clogged drains as reasons why they could have been closed down. But as I said, many of them have been closed for a very, very long time and unusable. And for my final topic, the students are very concerned with communication on behalf of administration. I know that when the TVs were put in a few years ago, they did not show the day of the class schedule, which I think is what students were most upset about, because that is what they primarily assumed that they would be used for. So they were majorly unhappy with the content that was being shown. When the senior benches are closed, oftentimes there is a reason, but it takes some significant pushing for people to get to it. Usually requires a one-on-one meeting with someone in the administration. And from there, it's usually word of mouth. There's not an announcement made for students to necessarily take proper accountability for it. And I'm glad that you mentioned the bathrooms, because when they were recently closed, we weren't given a whole lot of explanation beyond vandalism. And on the upper floor, there was only one female bathroom on the upper floor. Specifically one female stall, because the only bathroom that was left open, 2 out of 3 of its stalls were closed down for maintenance and had been for a considerable amount of time. When the bathrooms were reopened, it spread primarily also by word of mouth, as all of the teachers and students that I had spoken to didn't remember there being any official announcement made and didn't see anything in their emails, although the majority of BOCES students that I would have easy access to talk to be fair, aren't present for morning announcements. As far as the general student body was aware, there wasn't a whole lot of official questioning. I mean, I'm sure there absolutely was, but it wasn't something that we were aware of, which in many cases can be a good thing. But during the time, it felt very much like the things that were being done to prevent that vandalism weren't necessarily things that would actually have a considerable impact. During the time, there was the digital hall pass system added in. A lot of students specifically did not appreciate that, specifically because at the time, it was just very difficult to use. It was very buggy. And oftentimes, passes aren't properly closed, or it isn't, the computer system doesn't allow you to properly close it due to some kind of lagging. And so it would result in calls from administration to teachers and was just considered very inconvenient. Also, the reason that I placed the table in the bathroom in the first place was primarily because, you know, the students, they don't feel like we can communicate with administration. And I would like to see some kind of system put in place for students to have more access there. Just looking around, from looking at the administrators before walking in here, I didn't know half of your names. No, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I didn't know half of you.
To be fair, with the student here, I should have used all their last names tonight, so
it's fine.
that's on me. I started and then I thought of it, so.
But yeah, it just feels like students don't necessarily have the necessary access to be able to communicate and get their needs met, and just in general have a place to influence how their education is being handled on a day-to-day basis. Those are the 3 topics that I wanted to discuss. Obviously, I couldn't mention everything, and I and many others wish for the board to just be aware of these conditions and these happenstances. So I guess thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very well spoken, and proud of you for being able to bring this forward.
And if I could just say one thing, I'd like to point out the Candor word of the week, which is hinder. That some of these issues that she brought up may hinder the students' learning environment, access to bathrooms, access to personal care needs in moments when they might be necessary, access to water. And so in the decision-making process that the school board and the administration is making, just, I'm hoping that you're always thinking about, you know, that access for the students to the things that will not hinder their education and experience. Thank you.
So you certainly aren't gonna get all the answers tonight, right?
I don't expect to.
Cool. I will open it up to anybody on the administration if they want to say anything to Cassie and or just provide the option to follow up later.
Cassie, first of all, great job. You gave a great presentation. You should be very proud of yourself. I'm proud of you. We've had some conversations, not on all the stuff you talked about today. There's a lot of stuff there you and I haven't talked about that I would like to. Could you and I get together maybe tomorrow and have a conversation? So I want to make sure that you're comfortable with the conversation I think we've had so far. And also some of the items that we want to have addressed. Okay?
I believe with that, do any other visitors?
Yeah, go ahead. I think I have a lot, we covered a lot tonight. I guess I also just, to follow up on what Cass said, as the president of the PTSA, we are not a solution, but I hope that we can help be kind of that voice for students. The ask is for students, and we're hoping to get more students involved. I know you were there when we started, and love to see more students to get, you know, obviously going straight to the administration is also a great idea. But I think we, you know, with the extra little help to be that in between for the community, the parents and students to the school, you know, whether it's just like, hey, we've got an idea for this, or hey, this is something we need to work on, that I think that's part of what the PTA is supposed to be. So hopefully we can, you know, just be another partner in all school positively. So I did have a question. Oh yes, I had a question about the before and after school program. So I see it was noted that the numbers have increased, but I think the number is still lower than what we had hoped for when we started this last year. I didn't know if there was plans to do something different for next school year, so that it's more of an opportunity for more families, even with the subsidies. And I've heard that it's still a lot of families falling between the cracks, and they pay too much to use the subsidies, but then it's still too high of a cost to afford. So I don't know if there's a different, something we do differently for the next school year, or if we plan on continuing with the current program.
Can anybody speak to that? I don't know that.
I can follow up in an email with conversations or a phone call that Brent and I have kind of talked about, so I just don't think this is a issue for that.
Right.
Okay.
Because we don't have an answer, you know, that's really clear, but we have had conversations. What we can say is we're also aware that the numbers are, we're not providing service to as many community members and students as we want to, so we're always looking at ways we might be able to do that. So fair enough.
Excellent call. Absolutely, you're a part of that solution and part of the voice that they want to have amplified. With that, friends, well, we do need an exec, but we are out of public business. Actually, can somebody send us an executive session?
I will.
Thank you.
Can I correct the